Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here in Bristol, and I have spent many years back and forth in the early days of dating Jonathan. So yes, it's been a long journey. We've started out working together and developed Pearlfisher over the years, and it's a little bit overwhelming, really, when you see what something you never dream of grows into. So there are three partners. There's myself, Jonathan, and Mike. Mike now heads up the US office. But 20 years on, there's now 2 studios, one in London, New York, and a total of approximately 80 staff to sort of feeding those companies. So it hasn't been plain sailing, quite rightly, as Emma was saying through Jonathan's speech. But through the hard years, we've had some sort of tough times as well. But I think for us, the most important aspect of what we've done right from the very start has been look to create great work. And I've always seen it as a bit of a helter-skelter. You're constantly climbing up that helter-skelter, and it's a very slippery slope down. But if you keep doing great work, you keep great staff, and you attract like-minded clients too. So instead of showing you a portfolio of Pearlfisher today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some of our history and some of our culture. And we believe that it's our culture that actually forms who we are and actually forms the type of work that we produce. So I can make this work. So the curious and risky and creative world of Pearlfisher. And as I mentioned, we are independent, and our spirit is consistently sort of fighting to be creative and be free. And we hope that we allow our staff to do the same. So 2 decades of ideas, experiments and failures according to the original Bristolian Jonathan Ford. Yeah, he sent me, he says I've got better legs, but actually I'm not so sure. So let's let a little idea make a big impact. This was a project that we did, where we were asked to pitch on, actually. And we had this is the most famous Thai rum in Thailand that is their sort of national drink, basically. And we had the CEO coming to us and saying, we would like you to produce some creds and do a presentation to us, and we're looking at 4 other agencies. Now, what happened was, what won us this project? Ultimately, it wasn't any of the creds, it wasn't the proposal, it was none of that, it was none of our past work, it was actually our concierge or receptionist. And what she did was she took the initiative of creating fresh smoothies to enhance the CEO's mood. So there was one for calming and sort of one that's sort of a little bit of energy, and she produced these cocktails as he arrived in reception with a little menu that was written in Thai as well. And what he said to us was, you got the job simply the minute I walked through the door, because at the end of the day, it was about our brand being present and effective from the minute the guys walked through the door. So this is sort of where it was at. This is what we produced for them, and essentially it was a great project for that reason. We did loads of other brands with them as well, so it was a good relationship that we created. But ultimately, the work didn't come out of the designers; it was the receptionist that did it. Risk everything but your reputation. This is just another little story and about Coca-Cola. And they came to us and they said, we'd like to consider you for a 3-way pitch. actually it was 3 other agencies, so it's a 4-way pitch, and it's on how Coke can deliver and create experiences. So we decided that just delivering a proposal wasn't going to be the right sort of way to go forward. So Tessa, our director, our strategy director, came up with an idea, and it was a little bit risky, but what we thought was perhaps we could start a little viral campaign. And what we did was we printed up T-shirts saying, "Are you Catherine S. Stone?" This was the client's name, onto yellow T-shirts, and we sent people around the world, if they happened to be traveling, and put them in landmarks around the world and photographed them, and then sent her these emails anonymously to this client for her to sort of receive and think, who on earth is standing in Thailand wearing a T-shirt asking if it's me? And, we did it around the world, and it was quite easy. Got a lot of people who were traveling for business and everything else. So we did that. And then a week before the deadline, so she started getting all these anonymous emails. And then sort of the day before, we sent our creative director out to Atlanta with one of these T-shirts. And what he did was the day before, he walked around Atlanta, stood in front of a lot of landmarks, photographed himself and sent these photographs to her. Again, they were sent anonymously. The next, even in the Coke Museum, he went to the Coke Museum and stood there and had a photograph of himself in there as well. And then the next day, he stood outside Coke HQ wearing this T-shirt, and he just waited. Yes, HQ. He just waited, and eventually somebody came up to him and said, "You've been driving Catherine mad. What, who are you? What do you want?" And then he, sort of managed to get out of this guy. He said who he was, and he said, "I'd like to go and meet her at lunchtime." And so this guy told him where she was going to be at lunchtime. So he turns up. He's sitting up at the bar. When she turns up, she bursts out laughing and says, "Who are you? What are you? And what do you want?" And with that, he delivered the proposal and said, "You've just had your first Pearlfisher experience." We got the job, and we won. We produced a lot of work with them over the next 4 or 5 years. This was one of the concepts, which was straw in a bottle, and obviously when you open up the bottle, the straw pops out. So with the pressure. So that was one of the concepts. We also did things like digital tennis in different cities around the world. So you could one in Times Square and one in Piccadilly Circus, and each continent sort of batting the Coke bottle back and forward. And then we even got Coke Black into the Design 100 in Time magazine, which we were pretty chuffed about at the time. So, invest in the irrational, quirky, and wrong. So if you said to your accountant, we want to reserve 20% of our space to nothing, to random occasions, they would say you're mad, and it's a waste of space and waste of money. So, but we've done that, and in our gallery we have an empty gallery which we host different events and different shows in gallery exhibitions, including some of our own, including we have a birthday event every year, which happens to fall on sort of Guy Fawkes. So we put half a ton of fireworks on the roof and blow them up in about 15 minutes to music, and put spit roast on the barbecue, and sort of make sure that all our clients bring their families and just have a wonderful time. And that, again, is just a real Pearlfisher experience, and the type of event and things that we do to stand out and bring like-minded clients to us. We also do Sports Day, another cultural event. This is Jonathan in his best tennis outfit, and as him in his Elvis outfit. And not that I'm going to take the piss out of Jonathan all evening, but he's done the same to me. Oh, and there is his mucho Mexican boxer outfit. So we do all these sort of events, and this is just a summer's afternoon. We take a picnic, go to the park, and make everybody dress up in silly costumes and have a sports day. It's very simple. All the schools do it, so we like to follow that one through. And another culture thing that we do is test one silliest mistake in the US of the month, and you get this tin with a boob on it. So it's boob of the month, and it's horrible. It's horrible. But yeah, we embrace the mistakes as well and look to learn from those. You know, our team shouldn't be fearful of making those mistakes. This is one of the gallery events that we did. This was an artist that took Pamela Anderson, and I can't remember his name, he's a newsreader, stripped them naked and made them into a cake, which was full size. You start raving mad. And then this is a sculpture he did with cardboard, and absolutely amazing. He's works for television and film normally, doing sort of set designs, but had an exhibition in our gallery space. This was another one where everything was floating from the in the air. It was absolutely amazing. You literally had a few paths to walk through to be able to experience it. It was really, really fabulous. This is another one. This is we're quite forward thinking in terms of we have an insight team, and our insight team looks at what the future may hold, and we do a lot of research to find out what is going on in the food industry or the luxury industry, or what's the or what people are doing with their bodies, and you know how they're treating their bodies nowadays. So we do a lot of research there, and this was I think one of the food insights, where we invite a load of clients to our studio, and we give them pretty much to our presentation on what we think the food trends are going to be. Love Life came out of this as well, and whereas it was a concept, it was all about sort of good, healthy food, it certainly wasn't about abstinence. It was about variety and colour and indulgence and taste values. So, you know, having sort of created Love Life out of that was earning them £1 million a week after we put that on the market. At the end of the day, it's just lentils and stuff. So, you know, it was a fabulous program. And by giving ourselves this knowledge, we're able to design so much better. Wildwood, still cider, again, we use the gallery in another way. We're very passionate about typography, and the irony of it is that some of the old letterpress and the wood blocks and everything, the old craft that we all used to use, now it's being forgotten, and so few new designers coming out of the colleges have ever actually experienced that. So what we did recently was we brought in a guy into the studio with his letterpress and printing machines, and we got everybody over 4 weeks to learn how to use it. Corsten Vale is one of those that we sort of have, you know, tried to use with, you use new technology with the old, and we created the Pearlfisher brand. We created wood blocks to print out of a 3D printer. So we're using a new technology to recreate an old craft. Highland Park, again, one that, you know, sort of a lot of hand lettering and looking at really beautiful typography. So this was Mr. Smith's letterpress workshop. And this was our whole team that took time. We gave them a brief, and they took time over 4 weeks to design and come up with some work, and this was some of their first attempts at it. Here's the wood block that you can see that was created out of from the 3D printer. And it was an amazing experience. I mean, at the end of the day, there was some fabulous, beautiful work that came out. You know, the brief was, what is creativity? And they came out with one-liners, and, you know, it was a million. It was hell. They get the sack. Wink, you know, there was a lot of stuff, and you know, really amazing sort of experience. And it wasn't just designers that were doing that, it was everyone from the receptionist to the client services people and that sort of thing. Encourage a challenging attitude. I think we do that anyway with our guys, but this was one particular project that the client came to us and said, show fucking brilliant smoothies. And we were like, eh? You know, it's a little bit patronizing, isn't it? And then he made us understand that actually that was what he wanted. He wanted a smoothie with that was a little bit edgy, a little bit different. And so that's what we gave him. And this was the Frush brand, which is now #1 in the Scandinavian countries, overtaking Innocent. And I'd just like to say, I mean, this is sort of where Pearlfisher are now, and covering all sorts of areas of innovation and words and packaging and structure. And we essentially believe that if we do great work, great clients will come to us, and great staff will come to us for that reason and stay with us. So slippery slope, we just keep trying to climb it. We actually want to look forward, and hoping that we can take some of our clients with us on that journey, and hopefully I've given you a little bit of our insight as to the type of thing that we do at Pearlfisher and how we go about sort of building our culture and essentially keeping our staff happy. And thank you very much.